Last Sunday, as I always do, I got home and started looking at your tweets about the show and replying as usual. And then I noticed Mandalay Bay on the side of the screen, and I started to see some of those early videos with that horrific noise of gunfire. I went to bed shocked, but still with no idea of the scale of what had happened. Of course, during the week, we've all been learning more, not just about the crime and the criminal, but the victims and the heroes of all kinds who helped save lives. It's been an incredibly emotional week. But there is one emotion that I really didn't need, and that was anger at our politicians. And to be honest, that started right away on Monday morning when I saw Hillary Clinton tweeting about taking on the NRA. And then later that day, when Democrat Congressman and would-be presidential candidate Seth Moulton staged some pathetic, self-indulgent, hateful, divisive protest, refusing to observe a minute's silence for the victims. If the elites want to know why they're not getting anywhere with their gun control message, look no further than the attitude of people like Clinton and Moulton. This quote from Dan Henninger in the Wall Street Journal this week summed it up for me. Here it is. Anyone who disagrees with the absolutist liberal default position on banning guns is deplorable. This may be among the reasons the Democrats lost the 2016 election, have lost control of most state governments, and could lose Senate seats next year. The NRA and pro-gun sentiment doesn't defeat them. What defeats them is that their compulsive moral condescension impedes their ability to see the country clearly. Crystal, whatever your views on the gun issue, let's just assume, and I don't know your views, but let's just assume that you're
I don't want to ban guns,
right?
But I
you're
do think
an advocate for gun control.
Such things are a good idea.
Don't you think that this kind of immediate response, this kind of immediate aggressive, again, it's this frankly elitist response, not understanding half the country, it doesn't help their argument. Doesn't help if that's what you want. It doesn't help your argument.
Here's what I would say. I think it's natural after a crisis like that to immediately go to, what can we do? And I mean, in terms of the world, we are the worst in terms of mass shootings, and one happens on average every day. So if you're not going to talk about it the day of a mass shooting, you're not going to have much time to talk about it. But to your point, I think Democrats have no credibility with rural voters. Mm-hmm. And so even though when you look at the polling and you see 97% support universal background checks and other sort of common sense measures that Democrats support, because there is condescension coming from parts of the Democratic Party, there's no trust from rural voters to say, you're not going to go too far, right? And that this talk about guns isn't an attack on me. It really is just an attempt to solve a problem. There's no trust there. So one quick example, Joe Manchin, Senator of West Virginia, Democrat, who pushed for the Manchin to me gun control legislation. Well, he's still the most popular Democrat, the most popular politician in the state of West Virginia because he has credibility with rural voters. So they didn't see that as an attack on their culture. They thought, this is somebody trying to solve a problem. So I think there's a credibility problem for Democrats that is exacerbated by some of the comments that Hillary Clinton made as an example.
She went straight to, I mean, look, almost at the same time, I think, President Obama, I don't know if we have it, he had a completely different and frankly more graceful response. Michelle and I praying for the victims in Las Vegas. Our thoughts are with them and their families and everyone enduring another senseless tragedy. He makes the point that it's another senseless, but it's just the way of going about it. So I just wanted to get Chris in here. What's your, I mean, it's just, again, not so much on the actual debate itself, but the way this conversation is getting replayed over and over again.
No, over and over again. I thought President Obama's tweet was spot on. That was about the best thing you could possibly say, and it was totally appropriate. And then if you compare it side by side to what Hillary Clinton said, she said, can't we just put up politics aside and oppose the NRA? Okay, this goes to exactly what you were talking about, Steve. If you don't subscribe to the left-wing progressive catechism, you're just an unperson. Then we don't. That's not political. You're just wrong, and we have the right to talk past you. And that was what I think Hillary Clinton was demonstrating with that tweet, and that's what we saw from some of these other congressmen and people who want to jump out there and immediately say, aha, people dead, I can score political points about this. And that turns people off, as it should.
I just want,
we haven't got too long.
I think there's a genuine desire to solve a problem here, that it's not just politics,
No,
but I
But you're never going to get there.
The problem is that
You're never going to get there with that kind
No.
of
And you're not going to
elitist
get there
attitude.
when the Democratic
Not me, you,
candidate
the
for
people
president talks about people clinging to their guns and their Bible and not liking people who don't look like them, which we remember President Obama said back in 2008.
And to be fair, by the way, he has gone back and said he really regrets having said that.
But that was basically the mask slipping.
Yeah.
And that's when the public says, oh, so that's what you really think about us. And when Hillary Clinton tweets something, the part of the reason she doesn't have credibility is because she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
So when she says, if only, can you imagine if there had been a silencer? Well, as people actually know about guns started
But I think,
quickly
Amy,
pointing
you got
out
the real.
was,
We've got to move on, I'm afraid. But I think you got to the heart of it, where the bigger point here, which is not about silencers or bump stocks or whatever,
didn't know
which is
what
like
she was
this one
talking
about.
about. So she's out of
it
touch
revealed
by
what we
definition.
really think of you, and I think that's what people perceive in this whole debate, and that's why it never moves forward. That's what I think.